And the man of the hour, where is he? Oh, there he is. He's get some people and carrying on. Chris Miller, candidate for governor. Let's start everything off. Chris and I got acquainted with each other about a year ago, and I got to say, he's running an admirable campaign. A couple months ago, he was teetering around 8% in the polls. A little after that, he got up to 15%. Latest poll I saw had him at 26%. Gotta tell you what, it's probably about where somebody needs to be to potentially win this month. Chris Miller could just be what we need as conservatives to keep this state rolling, and it is an honor to know you. You've been a friend to me, you've been a friend of the good work in the Republican Party. We have another special guest here tonight, but before I introduce him, I want to go around the room to mention the elected officials and the candidates here tonight. Our special guest tonight drove 4 hours to be here. Former chairwoman of the West Virginia Republican Party, candidate for statewide Intermediate Court of Appeals, Ms. Elgine McArdle. I'll let Ms. Elgine speak in a bit, but in terms of Mr. Miller, I want to introduce another special guest who will be introducing Mr. Miller, all the way from Huntington, West Virginia. The former head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd basketball team, Dandy Antoni. Come on up, the floor is yours, sir. Glad you're here.
Chris asked me to come down. I've known his family, 50 years when I was a player at Marshall. But, his family were big Marshall supporters, always have been. When I came back, I met Chris, and I can only say this. I wouldn't have, this is the first time I've ever done this up in public for politics. There's a lot of politicians. I'll have to admit, my parents were die-hard Democrats. Die-hard. So that was back in the 50s and 60s. I believe they'd be Republicans now. Everybody's kind of flipped. But I did work for Arch Morris coming out of college for 2 years with the Appalachian Regional Division. And he asked me, he said, Dan, he says, I'm running for governor re-elect. Would you go out and campaign for me? I'll put you up in the northern part of the state. And I said, well, I have to go home. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, if I go home and do that, I will never come out alive. So that was politics back then, way back then. But I want to talk about Chris and just say this. You run into all kinds of people, especially trying to find support and help for our program, basketball program, Marshall, for Marshall University. Some are talkers. I formed committees. I did the Beach Ball Classic a long time ago, which is a major high school basketball tournament. And I had a large committee. And on those committees, you'll have talkers, you'll have guys that tell you they're going to do something, you'll have some that'll sit quiet, and then you have the few that will talk and do. And Chris is one of those. He's never let me down. Every time that I needed something at our program, he found a way to help our young people who were graduating Marshall University. And anything that I asked, he was there and available. Here's what I see, and I'll just give it to you and I'm an independent, and I'm grabbing a Republican ballot for the primary, just as soon as I get back. But here's what I see. They're all good ideas. I think I'm not a negative campaigner. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in talking down. I believe in talking up. And I think all of them have good traits. But to me, Chris has one advantage best. He's a creative person who can create a positive atmosphere and create a message that will sell young people to stay in the state. That's one of the things I want to do as a basketball coach. And that was to produce good graduates that stayed in West Virginia and not ship out our talent everywhere else. Chris has that ability to sell people. He's not just a creator, not just an idea guy, but I think he's the best in this thing that can sell the state of West Virginia to outsiders, sell the West Virginia to inside. And coming back, and I got to travel a lot of places. I lived in New York, LA, Phoenix, Charlotte, Myrtle Beach. Everybody knows where that one is, Myrtle Beach. So I know sometimes we undersell ourselves. But when I had a chance at the end, and I had a chance, I thought my brother's Mike, some of you might know, coached in the NBA for a long time. But we convinced Mike moved to the sporting club here in Lewisburg. You'll see him down at Cook's Diner. Down in Spider told me he saw a need down there, but he'll be there. But I convinced him to come back to the state. Sometimes we undersell ourselves, and sometimes you don't understand. I don't think, because I supposedly live in Westchester County. I'm supposed to be one of the best, and I could choose. I choose here. So I just hope that you'll choose this young man right here. He'll do a great job for the state of West Virginia. I hope that you will get out and vote for anybody and everybody, mostly Chris Bill. So with that, Chris, turn it over to you. Thank you very much. It is what we wanted. I don't want to say. Good Chris. Plus, I'm gonna buy 2 cars from him.
Well, I know what you're trying. Maybe more than 2, Coach. Thank you guys so much for coming. It means the world to me to have all the support. And I also know that we're going to have some fantastic food in a little bit because they've gone above and beyond the call of duty and prepared some incredible roast beef for all of us. At the end of the day, if we think about what's going on right now, what we're looking at is a selection of leaders. That is really what voting is about. So we're voting on who we want to lead us at the right times. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time telling you who I am in here and who I am in here, because I think that really does matter when it comes to picking our leaders. If you really want to know who I am, when I was 10 and a half years old, I told my dad I wanted a pair of Air Jordan tennis shoes. How old are you? When I was 10 and a half, I told my dad I wanted a pair of Air Jordan tennis shoes. When he found out they cost $125, you know what he told me? Get a job. Truth, I did. Got a job. Got a paper route. Woke up every single morning to deliver the newspapers. Didn't matter if it was snowing, raining, sleeting. It was Halloween, Thanksgiving, Easter. Didn't matter. You had to go get the job done. And it taught me some of the best lessons about life because it also teaches you about people. You would be shocked. Who doesn't want to give that 11-year-old kid the $13 that they're owed for their newspaper? And so you learn kind of funny tricks like call their boss at work, go, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, is Steve there? He owes me $13 for the newspaper." Be surprised how quickly people pay you too when that happens. Then my parents bought a 500-acre plot of land and turned me and my brother loose for 4 summers a row doing manual labor on that farm. We ran barbed wire fence, baled hay, learned how to weld, ran heavy equipment, cut down and cured and skinned locust trees for fence post corners. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but when you take the bark off a locust tree, it smells like sewage and it gets all over the place. Something you will never forget as long as you're alive. But as well, those fence posts are still intact to this day. This locust is a hard wood and will last a century. It also taught me to see the value of hard work to its completion every single day. That's a gift. It really is. Hard work is something that really we are needing right now in West Virginia. I'm married, been married for what is now going on 21 years.
2 weeks.
21 years on May the 28th. That is my wife, Cassie, sitting back there. You can always tell the caliber of a salesperson by how far they outkick their coverage with their spouse, and I clearly outkick my coverage. She is better than me. She's my purpose. She's my rock. We have 3 kids together. We've got a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old boy. Both of them wrestle at Huntington High School and do all kinds of other sports and activities. And then we have an 11-year-old little girl who I think we're all going to wind up working for one of these days because she is an absolute firecracker. And I'm also sober from alcohol and opiates since April 1st of 2004 because of that person right there. try not to get emotional. But when I went through that experience, what my wife didn't do was talk down to me and tell me I was no good and worthless. She told me about the potential of the man I had the ability to be. And she raised me up and lifted me up. And she helped me. And I would never be who I am without her. Ever. Ever. That is something else. That's missing because we are still at the tail end of the opiate epidemic. We all know that. We have brothers and sisters all around the state of West Virginia that need help. We get rehabilitation all around. I will touch on that later on, but it is a major challenge. Our state has some of the best people on planet Earth living here, and I believe we deserve better than what we've been given. I believe that government should look at all of us in this room as taxpayers. Taxpayers should be treated as valued shareholders. Everything the government should do is to provide us with a return on investment for our tax dollars in quality of life and tangible services. That's not happening right now, and the relationship is upside down. We deserve more than what we're getting, and our state has serious challenges as well. We are dead last in about everything from economy to education. The only thing we're first place in is cancer rates and the number of grandparents raising grandchildren. That's a catastrophe. We all know it, have this good old boy system that's been running our state for far too long that gets in the way of creating good services, good deals, good products for every single person in this room, every single person around this county, and every single person around this state. We got to get rid of that. And lastly, the biggest challenge that we face is that our greatest export is not our coal or our natural gas. Our greatest export is our kids. And we have to fix that to avert a financial catastrophe that's coming down the road. But also, being a dad, I want my kids to be here with me and have grandkids and be around me as I age. And so I want to fix that for everybody. How you do it is pretty darn simple. You have to run state government more like a business. You have to audit every single dime that is spent. You have to create an economy that thrives. We also have some social issues going on. I have an 11-year-old daughter. And I'll be darned if I want her sharing a locker room with a biological male. It's like we're living in a time where people are trying to be so open-minded their brains are falling out of their heads. This is just common sense. There's XX and XY. God made it that way for a reason. There's men and there's women. Whatever somebody does with their own body, their own life's none of my business. You start messing around with kids, that becomes my business pretty darn quick. Now also, we have this other issue with special interest in lobbying. It's a problem. What I've seen over and over again is that politicians are really, really bad negotiators. They aren't good at negotiating. They're negotiating with other people's money, our money, all of us here, taxpayers. And deals don't get done right for our people. You know who's good at negotiating? Business people. Farmers, people with real world experience. We need a lot more of that inside of government. So we need to kick special interests totally out of the governor's administration and start running that thing for the benefit of the people. It should be of the people, for the people, by the people. That's the original intent. That's what we need to get back to. And we got to make sure the special interest is taken out of decision making when it comes to doing everything for our people. That's got to happen. Now, I think the state of West Virginia is struggling from what I call a little bit of PTSD. We do not realize how great we've been. And once we realize that can tell us how great we can be. So I've got a little bit of a vision here, and I want you to follow me. Our people are capable of greatness. The people in West Virginia mined the coal that built the steel that led to a victory in World War I. We mined the coal that built the steel that led to a victory in World War II. We mined the coal that led to the cheap energy and the greatest capitalistic expansion post-World War II in human history. Our people did that. We are capable of doing incredible things. Right now, we have what the rest of the world needs. We might as well leverage it to do something for it. Being a business guy, I think of assets and liabilities and equity. When you lay down all the assets on a piece of paper, there is no reason why West Virginia is not the richest state in the country per capita. The only reason is politicians. West Virginia has an incredible amount of coal, an incredible amount of natural gas. We're uncovering rare earth element seams here in the southern part of the state. We also have more water than any other state in the country. We're basically the birthplace of water for the East Coast. Meanwhile, out west is all drying up. According to the Department of Energy, West Virginia can generate more power through geothermal heat than Saudi Arabia can generate BTUs of natural gas. That's pretty incredible. When you add all that stuff up, here's my plan to take West Virginia's economy and turn it on fire and do something for every single person in this room. First thing we're going to do is we're going to leverage all of our resources and drive down the cost of power for our people by up to 7%. Use that as the foundation of all of our economic growth and development. Businesses will come to us. It's a fixed cost. That is a competitive advantage. Then you also think about Jim and Susie Atkins. Both of them are on Social Security and they're 70 years old. You cut their power bill by 70%, you do something incredibly impactful for their lives as well. And that's what I call good government. That right there. So I've got a really simple 3-day plan, by the way. We're going to hit the ground running. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to audit every single dime the government spends. No more $300 hammers. No more pieces of equipment disappearing out of the back door for the Department of Highways. We're going to hold every single person and every single dime accountable. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to start drug testing for welfare. I don't believe that our tax dollars should go to make drug dealers rich. I don't believe that. That's wrong. More importantly, though, it allows us to do something for children. You know darn well if that person is using drugs, they are not taking care of their kids. So it allows us to identify who has a problem, get them the help that they need, and also redirect those resources to the kids where it belongs. That is what I call good government as well. Last thing that we're going to do is we're going to put all the lawmakers in a room without special interest, and we're going to find a way to get rid of the state income tax in West Virginia. I want to talk through that really quickly. 3 of the 4 fastest growing states post-pandemic are Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. And they all have one thing in common. It's a 0 state income tax. Look at West Virginia. We're surrounded by 5 states: Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, plus DC, if you call that a state. I don't call that a state, I call that you know what. All of them are high tax and all of them have high income tax as well. The economic advantage that we would have with that would create all kinds of economic growth and development. That is incredibly powerful. One of the other first things we've got to think about. So, we want to light our economy on fire, do something for our people, get rid of the state income tax, dramatically cut the cost of power by up to 70%. West Virginia is going to take off. Industry, commerce, growth, development, it will create the economy that we need to keep our kids here. That is the most important thing in my mind, because I don't want our kids to do that. No more of that. Last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is the greatest people on planet Earth right here in our state. Spent 16 months traveling around the state, meeting all kinds of fantastic people. And the people in West Virginia are the best people on planet Earth. We deserve better than what we've been given. It's only in West Virginia that people will bring you into their home and feed you even when they don't have a lot. It's only in West Virginia when you have a flat tire on the side of the road, people will stop and help you. It's also only in West Virginia when your Tesla breaks down out in coal country that a bunch of miners will come out of the mine, push your Tesla to a coal power generator that will get you enough charge to get on down the road and see your family. That's a true story. You can look it up. It happened this past summer. Those are our people. We're capable of great things. We're also capable of incredible compassion. Last thing I want to touch on is the opiate epidemic. We get rehabilitation all wrong. We still have more children being raised by grandparents than any other state in the country. And also, 2017 and 2018 was the peak of the opiate epidemic and kids being awarded big time. Now those kids are turning 6 and 7 years old and they're moving into our school systems. We are not ready. You're not ready for this thing. Now, thinking about it from a business, we don't have the appropriate structure for education because we're dead last. The first things we need to do is we need to get rid of this big bloated layer of bureaucracy at the top of things, of these six-figure earners that sit in a glass tower or an ivory tower, shuffling around paperwork, not doing anything, that soak up all of our resources before they flow into the classroom to pay our teachers more. So they're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff that they're not used to. And also make sure the resources flow at the end of the day to the customer, which is us, the taxpayer, the student, and the parent. So we have to fix education in our state. We also have to fix what's happening with rehabilitation. Because it takes 13 to 30 months to rewire the pathways in the brain of the addict. And all the long-term data and evidence tells us this is going to be a shocker for a bunch of liberals, but it starts with a foundation of faith. That is the first ingredient you have to rehabilitate yourself. Second thing is, you need to have a community. You need to have jobs inside of a community. You need to have work inside of that community. You need to have one-on-one and group counseling. And then, at the last half of rehabilitation, what we do is we teach people trades. Because not only is there a major opportunity for trade labor right now, we have a labor force issue, but the number one reason for relapse is lack of economic opportunity and economic mobility. Give people a purpose and reinvigorate their lives with faith. There's nothing that they can't accomplish. And that is the other thing that we have to focus on, because Big Pharma pumped a bunch of pain pills into our state, got a lot of our people addicted. And then when that started getting curbed down, the opiate epidemic took off with heroin. And now with these open borders, we got fentanyl pouring across our borders. And that is a weapon of mass destruction. So I'll leave you with this, like President Trump, I'm a business guy. It is so important to make sure and get him reelected back into office, because we need a wall, and we need a wall right now. Because that's the fastest way to stop what's happening. And it's all coming across our borders. It's pretty darn simple. And we need to act right now. So that's why when everybody goes and votes on Tuesday, it's really, really important to check that box for President Trump, because we've seen what bad politicians can do. I got a chance to meet him and spend about 30 minutes talking with him. He told me something very, very, very insightful. By the way, he's not the guy the media leads you with. He's a good man, he's a kind man, he's smart, sharp as a tack. He told me, Chris, I didn't have to get Putin to believe I was going to do everything that I was capable of. He just had to believe I was capable of doing 10% of it, and it kept him in check. He said, I didn't have to get China and Xi to believe that I was capable of doing everything I said I was going to do. They just had to believe I was capable of doing 10% of it, and it kept him in check. And look where we were. We were in the middle of creating the greatest economy in the history of the world. There were no wars. None. Look at where we are right now. We got nonsense going on in Ukraine. Putin's all emboldened and ruffling his feathers. We got China eyeballing Taiwan as we speak. By the way, we're at war with China. We all know it. War in the 21st century just looks different. The Chinese are the ones that are making the chemicals to make fentanyl and ship it to the drug cartels in Mexico. That is deliberate, and that is an act of war as far as I'm concerned. Making sure that we have good business people involved at the national level and at the state level to move us back in the right direction is so darn important. I'll leave you guys with one last thought, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. There are kids all around our state that are hurting. They're poisoning their minds with technology. Chinese have been, pumping all kinds of bad information into us through social media and TikTok for a long time. We're seeing what happens with these kids because they're not adjusting the right way. Then when the pandemic hit, everybody was stuck at home, weren't able to go to school to get fed. Made problems even worse. We have mental health crisis with our kids. I think we ought to put a chaplain in every single high school around the state of West Virginia. Those kids will go to it because they're really needing it. They're wanting it. You don't have to force anybody to do it. Just the fact that that presence is there. I think that's how we reinvigorate Christian faith and how we reinvigorate the rest of the country to show them what good old-fashioned conservative governments based on a foundation of faith really can do. Our people deserve better. We deserve better than what we've been getting. And it would be the honor of my lifetime, aside from marrying my wife, to be chosen as the next governor of the great state of West Virginia. I just need every single person's help in this realm. I need your vote. I also need you to leave here and tell everybody. That guy's not like the rest of them. He's not a politician. He's not a bureaucrat. He's not an attorney. He's a business guy, common sense, values, and work his tail off to make sure West Virginia has it. Thank you guys so much for that.
Everybody hungry?
Yes.
What we're gonna do is I'll start calling tables. After we all get seated, get to eating, I will also be asking Ms. McArdle to speak to us as well about her campaign. And who's gonna get the fish first? That's my most favorite part of dinner. The verdette table. You all go first. Also gonna ask very quickly, Senator Jack David Woodrum, do you mind blessing the food for us?
Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to be together for like-minded conservatives, God-fearing West Virginians to come together to support the right. We pray you'll bless all the candidates that are here and all the people that are here outwork to achieve our goals. We pray that you'll bless this food and bless those that prepare it. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. While everybody's eating, I want to give an opportunity to Ms. Elgine McArdle to speak with us about her campaign for Intermediate Court of Appeals, which is a brand new thing for us to vote on. If you don't know what the heck that is, Elgine's going to explain it to you.
Thank you. First of all, I really didn't mean to brand on Chris's parade, but I did want to come and support him. I'm not saying that, but thank you. So my name is Elgine McArdle, and I am running for Intermediate Court of Appeals, which is a statewide race. The Intermediate Court, how many people here know what the Intermediate Court even is? Very few. Okay, so the Intermediate Court was enacted in 2021. They first started taking cases in 2022, and this is actually the first election that we're going to have. Governor Justice appointed 3 judges to the court, each serving a 2-year, 4-year, and a 6-year term. And so they are alternating and staggered so that the court is never just filled with one, or vacated and then refilled with 3 new people. The term is actually 10 years, and so it's very important in this day and age to pick your judicial candidates wisely. I think everybody has seen the weaponization of the justice system against political opponents. And I am proud to say that everybody in here who is going to be casting a vote for President Trump can do so because I was on the legal team that kept him on the ballot. So old Mr. Castro tried to come into West Virginia and say that Donald Trump should not be on the ballot. And so West Virginia GOP and the state chair and also an attorney, I joined a CLJ in challenging that particular attempt, and we did win in the federal district court. So everybody gets to cast their vote for President Trump. So when I also actually had the honor of filing President Trump's paperwork when he went to file. So I hand-delivered his check and his paperwork to the Secretary of State's office. But enough about that. So what Intermediate Court of Appeals? I explained a little bit of how it was structured. What does it do? It handles all appeals except for abuse and neglect and criminal defense cases. Those go directly to the Supreme Court. Everything else goes via the Intermediate Court of Appeals. family court cases, administrative cases, civil cases, guardianship cases. Those all go to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. So why me? 1/3 of the cases that go before the Intermediate Court of Appeals are actually family court cases. And at this particular point in time, there were no judges on the Intermediate Court of Appeals that have family court experience. Furthermore, neither of my opponents have any kind of family court experience. So what's my experience? I started my practice when I graduated from law school as a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor. I prosecuted RICO cases, drug cases, in the Northern District of West Virginia. I also did civil cases. So as an assistant United States attorney, you have to both defend the federal government in cases, and then you have to prosecute on behalf of the federal government. You defend them, so if somebody slips and falls in a federal courthouse, or student loans are defaulted, those are the kind of civil cases that you do. So I did both civil and criminal for 5 years as a federal prosecutor. Thereafter, I went to work for a corporate law firm, and at the corporate law firm, obviously I did banking, litigation for commercial practices, businesses, and that kind of thing. After I did that, I went into private practice and started family law. And I've been doing family law for 25 years. Chris had indicated that a lot of grandparents are raising their grandchildren. I can tell you that as a family court attorney and anybody else who has done family court, it is sad how many kids are affected by the drug crisis. I have personally been involved in those cases, and I think that gives me a unique experience and perspective that I bring to the court. Now, as far as why me, and there's a lot of my opponents all say, well, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to be impartial. Well, sure, you got to be fair, you got to be impartial, but the question is fair to who? And you got to watch what my opponents may be fair to, or what is driving them, or what is paying for one of my opponents. Actually, one of my opponents has spent $636,000 in this race. He's going to lose. One of the line items that he had in his expenditures was a poll. I didn't ever see the poll, but I'm going to guess that the poll didn't turn out so good for him because he dumped another $200,000 into the race. So why is he so worried? I believe in faith, family, and freedom. I believe that values matter. While this is a nonpartisan race, values matter. Why do values matter? Because values drive your character. And character is doing what's right when no one is looking. And so as a judge and as a judicial candidate, you have to be looking at the law and the facts. That's it. As an appellate court judge, you can't make things up. You can't skew them to whatever you want to do. You cannot legislate to the bench. You have to apply the law to the facts as they're presented. And I think I can do that. I know I can do that. Why do I know I can do that? I am licensed in 3 different states: West Virginia, Virginia, and Ohio. I actively practice in all 3 with my partners, me, myself, and Ami. So we are extremely busy. In this campaign, I have put 8,000 miles in 30 days on my vehicle. I have worked this state, and I have not been here. That's why I came here tonight and drove 4 hours. Because I think it's important. It's important to let people see you, let people ask questions, shake their hands, and do what's right. So anyway, I have practiced all 3 states. I also have 35 published opinions. Those who are attorneys here, I have published opinions in the West Virginia Supreme Court, the West Virginia Intermediate Court, the Ohio Appellate Courts, 4th Circuit Court of Appeals, and 2 years ago, I reversed a criminal conviction in the United States Court of Appeals. I mean, not United States Court of Appeals, United States Supreme Court. So I am licensed to practice and have reversed a conviction, criminal conviction in the United States Supreme Court. Neither of my opponents can say that they have been written briefs or appeared before the United States Supreme Court. Those things matter. Who am I as a person? You all know I was former state chair, so I think I'm conservative. I think that's pretty evident. But more importantly, with Mother's Day coming up, I have been married to my husband for 33 years. We dated for 7, so we've been together for 40. So don't do math, because that'll make me really old. And I have been a Republican for 42 years. So I've lived in the state of West Virginia for 50 years. But most importantly, biggest accomplishment are my 3 children. I have 3 children. My oldest one is a PhD candidate at UMass Amherst in sports management. My son, my middle child son, is a resident at Ruby as an anesthesiologist, and he was just named the chief resident for his final year of residency. And then my youngest, like Chris's youngest, is a pistol. She is really a pistol, but she is actually working for the West Virginia Attorney General's office in Medicaid fraud analyst. So she has got her master's as well as a fraud analyst. That's what she does. She is a pistol. I say she's a pistol because she actually played hockey, ice hockey, from the time she was 4 years old. And when she was a senior in high school, she actually got the highest award from the Pittsburgh Penguins. She got the Badger Bob Award, and that is an award given to a student who plays hockey, who has excellent community skills, leadership skills, grades, etc. She was the captain of her high school boys hockey team. So, but she did not go in the locker room. She had her own locker room, but that's a little bit about me. I have passed out my palm cards. The QR code takes you to my website, and there's lots of information on there. Lots of information that I'm most proud of as well, besides my kids, are testimonials from clients. I think there's about 7, 8, 9 testimonials from clients whose kids I have helped and whose families I have helped. So I hope you consider me in your voting. If you haven't voted, please check Elgine McArdle. I'm the only one from Ohio County. The rest of them are from Kanawha County. So they make a difference. Thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your patience.
What we're going to do now is Mr. Miller's going to stop chewing, and he's going to take questions. I love questions. So, without any further ado, whoever wants to ask the first question, raise your hand. Of course, mine stopped chewing too. That's the only problem. By the way, great meal tonight with the Dutchdowns, right?
All right, man.
Steve Snyder.
Chris, I heard you speak about this one before, and what we realized ever since when 67 forward, my parents left, my cousins left, everybody left. You were just coming back. I heard you say we need to have 200,000 more people in West Virginia, straight out, leave the working sector, we move into the retirement sector. We need 200,000 more people, for what I heard you say. Right. To start balancing things, we're at one year where we have new services, we'll raise taxes on the rest of the elected. Nobody wants to do either one of those. Economic development growth is a key thing. You expand on your data, you're hearing behind there.
Well, it's not a theory, it's math.
Sure.
So I don't want to bore you guys with a bunch of economic jargon, but here's how this thing goes. We've been declining in population and have an aging population. Basically, it creates the perfect storm where our bond ratings get clamped. And it dramatically raises the cost of government. And that is going to be a bad day for the state of West Virginia because you know who gets cut first? Rural counties, places outside of Charleston, places outside of a lot of population. And that's not cool to me. More importantly, think about it from a mathematical standpoint. We have to add about 200,000 people over the next 10 to 12 years which is not really unrealistic in any way, shape, or form. If I do my job right, we created such an incredibly strong economy. We actually want to make it hard at one point in time to have people come here because we don't ever want to lose our values or the things that make us who we are. You know that old expression, keep your California out of my Texas? Same thing's going to apply here in West Virginia. We need to do it the right way, we need to do it smart. That's the interesting thing about data and technology. It can show us a lot. Started a data company in March of 2020. Curious to see what was going to happen. Anytime we've had a pandemic throughout history, it tells us that it changes how people interact with each other. What the data overwhelmingly tells us is that there's a demographic shift going on in our country right now. And you can see it step by step when you analyze the data. And coincidentally, I've gotten to meet two different couples here that are examples of that data. So we're in a demographic shift, and I can tell you exactly how and why it occurred. First off, liberal policies inside of cities, with needles everywhere, and tent cities, and being lax on crime, made people really uneasy. Then all the liberal stuff that was being pushed into school systems all around the country has made people really uneasy. Then when we locked a bunch of people down in urban areas surrounded by concrete, they couldn't go to church, they couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't see their friends and their family. That was kind of the icing on the cake. And people were like, I want to get out of here. I want to find a place that matches up more with my values. I don't want to be around this crazy liberal stuff anymore. So the good thing is that most of the movement is occurring are good old-fashioned conservative people that have a foundation of faith and want to go to a place that they consider home. That's one of the many things that West Virginia has to offer, that if we play our cards exactly the right way, we can take advantage of it. But we want to grow the right way. You don't want to add 200,000, alphabet people. We want to add 200,000 people that want to work, take part in the economy, help create jobs. So you can do it exactly the right way, and that's the fascinating thing about the world that we're in. It's all about technology, and you can use that technology for good, or, like China, you can use that technology for bad. All we have to do is use it for good. Pretty simple. Did that answer your question well enough?
More questions about that? Good. Dr. Morrison?
We briefly spoke a few minutes ago, and this is a question that I ask everyone. As a physician in West Virginia and being in public health and obviously rural health, one of the things that's very frustrating is kind of to your opening speech. We lead the nation in all of the worst things in healthcare, or healthcare status, as far as leading the nation in cardiovascular death, in cancer, and obesity, and nicotine related. And I could go on, and I'm sure that you could as well. And so where do you think we can improve upon healthcare as a whole in our state?
So I believe that the greatest governing entity in the history of mankind is the family unit. And we're living in a time right now where there's this deliberate and non-deliberate attempts to break down that unit. Lots of things culturally that are happening that are doing that. Aside from the opiate epidemic and what's happening with the open borders and the gender modification surgery for minors, all those things. If we relate that back to where it all starts, though, based on your question, it starts at home with an example. And being more aware of what's happening around us. The pandemic taught us something important about localized supply chains. West Virginia, if you go back and look at the archives, back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, we produced an incredible amount of produce, an incredible amount of livestock. And you go into the school system right now and look at food, it's not the most desirable, nutritious stuff on planet Earth. I do think that we have an opportunity to make sure and not only support our local farmers, but use that to improve localized supply chains and provide food inside of our school systems based on people that are growing agriculture and livestock here inside of West Virginia. You asked about the cost of healthcare, which is a separate conversation. I'll address that in a minute. More importantly, though, I want to lead by example. I believe in physical fitness. I'm a boxer. I literally hung up the gloves because of her a little over a year ago. So I promised her I was going to do this crazy governor thing that I would stop fighting competitively because it made her a nervous wreck. And I don't know why, but physical fitness is something that's really, really important to me. It also is something that's missing when it comes to rehabilitation. It is something that helped me through my rehabilitation process because you have to get the hormones and the chemicals in the brain producing again, the dopamine, the serotonin, the norepinephrine. And the fastest way to do that is through rigorous exercise. And so it's one of the things that I believe in wholeheartedly that we need to incorporate into rehabilitation. But then you think about what exercise, an example of that does when it comes to obesity, when it comes to preventing heart disease, diabetes. I want to lead by example. So I'm going to go around schools and talk to kids over and over and over again about physical fitness and that kind of stuff. Cost of healthcare is a different conversation, but it all ties back into economic growth and development. Because when you have a controlled entity running healthcare inside of the state, and the health insurance costs are directly correlated to zip codes and area codes, you're going to have a problem, especially with a declining population and an aging population. Economic growth fixes the cost of healthcare, adding more people and healthy people. That fixes the cost of healthcare. The other thing that fixes is workers' comp modifiers, lots of expenses in government, business costs. Like it's all tied back into economic growth and development. Now, that's one of the other ways we're going to have the resources to complete what's happening with rehabilitation and the opiate epidemic. So it all ties back to that. Healthcare costs, though, as well, are anti-competition at the end of the day. We do not have an open free market for our healthcare, and everything is funneled into certain locations without providing the ability of us to know how things cost. And so if we're going to fix the problem of population growth and economic growth, one of the issues that I have with the healthcare system is name one industry on planet Earth where you go in to get services, don't know what anything costs until after you get it, and then you have to pay for it at the end, and you look at the numbers and go, why is this so darn expensive? And aspirin costs 12 cents, not $25. Competition fixes all problems that we face. Free market can fix a lot of the problems that we face. We're going to drive down the cost of healthcare for our people. We have to use economic growth as the foundation for that. We also have to use education and competition to do that. There's not just one way to do it. There's several ways to do it. We need to give every single person in this room the freedom to choose how, where, and why they get their health care. It's a complex problem. There's a lot of answers to it. But it starts and ends with economic growth and development. We're going to fix our health care. We have a lot of seniors that need taken care of as well. That's something that's been left off the campaign trail completely. This aging population, there's a lot of seniors that actually want to live in peace in their own homes and can't provide the support for themselves to do that as they age. How are we going to be able to take care of that? Economic growth and development. That's where we get all of the resources to make sure and have everything we need to take care of our people. So a lot of it ties back to that. I also think, and this is controversial, we're in the beginning stages of really understanding health in a better way. Everything that we do at the end of the day and most diseases that we face are results of insulin surges, spikes in blood sugar. And I think we're taught that you got to be careful with saturated fat and animal fats. And I don't think that that's the truth. I think that we're going to find in long-term research that it all starts and ends with sugar. And I think sugar is a drug, and it's an addiction, and it causes a lot of the problems that we face, spikes in blood sugar. But I'm not a but I bet that gets proved correct.
On that note, we have more pie and cake and the floor. So be sure and get some underway.
By the way, my wife will tell you I have a sweet tooth completely, and so I really try not to eat that kind of stuff. But when I do it really, really bad.
One more question. One more question. Yes, sir.
I'm sure.
I have a follow-up question to Steve Snyder's. If I understood you correctly, you said 200,000 people over the next 10 years, is that correct?
10 to 12.
Okay, so what if we kept 20,000 of our young from leaving per year? Okay. That's it.
You're on the right track. You're on the right track. The one math part of the equation you have to realize is that we are going to have people that age off into eternity. And the young people, we have to bring in more to subsidize that. Part of the big battle, and that's the thing at the end of the day is the young people. So that actually solves a lot of the problems. Economic growth and development. Cures that. It does.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Miller.
Now I'm going to have a piece of cake, by the way.
I'm gonna have a piece of cake. I'm gonna say one more thing. We, as the Greenbrier County Republican Party, have done our best this primary season to bring in as many candidates across the state as possible. We have never had such an effort, and it has been very successful. Very successful. I want to thank the executive committee. If you're a member of the Greenbrier County Republican Executive Committee, please stand up. We have what I can say is the best Republican Executive Committee in the state of West Virginia.